go live. And then this is Wednesday, June 30th. There are 20 days until San Diego Comic-Con 2021. Welcome to SDConCast, the official podcast of the San Diego Comic-Con unofficial blog.
VANUHTEE go. Oh my god, I love LiveJournal, and my LiveJournal loves me. Current mood is hyperactive, current music refuse 73. I love the color scheme in pink and purple.
Good evening. I am your host, James Riley, and joining me on the podcast, as always, Carrie Dixon.
Hey guys, thanks so much for joining us.
And also joining us today, Robert Warners.
Hey, everybody.
And our special guest, super PR guy, Miereanu.
Hello.
All right. So thank you all for joining us tonight. We'll be taking comments and questions during the show. You can tweet us at SD_comic_con or use the hashtag SDConCast. We will also be keeping an eye on the YouTube live chat if you wish to comment there. First up, let's talk to Gary. And Carrie, why don't you take it away?
Yeah, so Gary, for anybody who doesn't know, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
So I'm an orthodontist in Orange County. And no, just kidding. I am a publicist who tends to specialize in fanboy everything. The bulk of my work is with Warner Brothers and Lexinotis, a new animation studio that's quite incredible. But I'll get into that later. But yeah, Warner Brothers, most people know me from my repping on most of the DC properties, particularly the animated DC Universe movies and some of the TV series, and, you know, hanging with that gang, the Bruce Timms and Alan Burnett's of the world. So it's a good time.
Gary, I don't know if you've noticed, but it's been a slightly crazy 18 months or so. Have you been staying?
What's been going on?
Have you been staying busy during that time?
So here's the funny twist. While the rest of the world started locking down and shutting in, animation went into overdrive during the pandemic. I mean, you fans will enjoy a lot of content going forward because we have a lot of movies and TV series coming. It's been fantastic from that. It's been frustrating because we haven't been able to do it in person. We haven't been able to, you know, recording sessions are by Zoom, edit sessions are by Zoom. Everything is WebEx and Teams and all of that. But there's been a lot being produced, and you guys will hear about a lot of it. This morning we announced, Warner Brothers, we announced an animated film called Night of the Animated Dead, which is a animated recreation of the 1968 George A. Romero horror classic, and it's delicious. And yeah, it's produced by Michael Luisi and his gang and directed by Jason Axon, and it's got a cast that you can't believe between Josh Duhamel and James Roday and Will Sasso and Dule Hill and Nancy Travis and Jimmy Simpson, and it's Catherine Isabel. So it's a lot of fun. It's a horror movie, but an animated horror movie. It really captures the original the way it should be, the way we converted it over. And I'm sure you've seen Batman Long Halloween Part 1. We actually recorded that 3 years ago, and it's coming out now. So that just came out June 22nd. Part 2 of Batman Long Halloween comes out in about 5 weeks and 7 weeks on Blu-ray and digital. So we've got a lot behind that. Mortal Kombat Legends, Battle of the Realms we've announced. You'll see a trailer for that tomorrow. If you happen to tune into IGN sometime tomorrow morning, you might get your first look-see at that. If you like the first one, you're gonna love the second one. We don't hold back much. So yeah, there's just been a lot. Scooby and Courage the Cowardly Dog. We've got a crossover going with that. So it's been, the last 18 months has been producing all these movies, working on that, trying to augment the way we normally do publicity, because we'd normally be at a con and we have 120 media in a room and we run the talent through that one. Instead, we've got online junkets and online Zoom panels and all of those other options that we've had to revert to make it all work. And then on top of that, it is quite the feat to produce virtual panels for the cons. And we've been doing them for WonderCon and ComicCon and New York Comic Con, and those are an event when you do those. They're difficult. You have to schedule. You work everybody around, and granted, most people are like, well, everybody's at home. Well, everybody isn't at home, so and you've got all the technological issues too. So it's been busy, and we did DC Fandom last year as well, and that was a monumental undertaking. And then they've announced that we've got another one coming up in October. So there hasn't been much downtime. I joke about it, but from February 23rd until Thanksgiving last year, I had 4 full days off. That was it.
Oh my God.
Yeah, there was no stopping. 2 weeks ago, I did 10 straight days of 20-hour days, and it was relentless. And then I slept. So
sounds like ComicCon.
Yeah, in a lot of ways it is, except without the steps. So yeah, I mean, I'm totally out of shape. If you made me go to a con tomorrow, I would be huffing and puffing, but just halfway between the Bayfront and Hall H. So it's not easy. And honestly, it's been good in a lot of ways, in that people have been able to connect and try and stay connected, even though we're not seeing each other. Today I was over at actress Julie Nathanson's house for a couple minutes, dropping something off and visiting a little. And it's really good to see people. I think we underrate that at another level, and it really is obvious, without the cons, not being able to get together with everybody and swap stories, relax. Those are the best moments of the cons.
Yes. I'm trying to guess what question to ask you next, because I think you answered like half of the ones we had in it planned already.
Carrie asked something pre-game, so I'll get into that. My virtual background.
Yes.
And the touting.
Yes. So I think we confused a lot of people, like when we named this podcast, which is fine. Like, we always name our podcast something stupid and punny, but I knew that your favorite post-convention spot is Ghirardelli. So, like, just tell us about that. Like, how did that start?
As a child, one of the great travel spots we would go to, we'd take a drive up to, I grew up in LA mostly, and we would drive up to San Francisco, and we would yearn for Ghirardelli Square and the chocolate factory and the ice cream shop there. And Comic-Con, I mean, I think the fans will relate to this, and most of us will anyway. There are fabulous parties that happen at Comic-Con. And when I first started going to Comic-Con, I was a pisser working for Disney, and I was the guy bringing, Little Mermaid 2 to the, Cinderella 2, Dreams Come True kind of thing. These sequels that nobody really, it wasn't for Comic-Con, and I was laughed at. So, but I liked most of them, and but I wasn't getting invited to any parties. And and like most people, it was like, oh, I got to get to that. Oh, Sci-Fi's having a party. I want to go to that. Oh, the Warner Brothers party. How do I get an invitation to that? And I got tired of chasing parties. And one night I said, you know what, screw this. I'm never chasing a party again. I don't care if I ever get invited to a party again. I am making my own party. I will have a nightly gathering at Ghirardelli. I'm going to Ghirardelli between 10 and midnight. Usually I'm there around 10:30. And I'm getting a table outside, and I'll get 5 other chairs, and whoever wants to meet me there can meet me there. And it started as kind of a funny bit, and Greg Weisman from Young Justice and Jamie Thomason, the great voice director, would join me, and then we started getting celebrities and great animators and writers and directors and producers and casts, and it literally the only night I'm not there is Friday night, because usually we do a DCU DC Universe movie premiere, and then we go and have a fabulous celebration dinner after that. But the crowd at Ghirardelli every night, starting on Wednesday night. I actually go there I have a dinner on Tuesday, a standing dinner on Tuesday night with a couple of friends, and then we go over and have Ghirardelli. But Wednesday night through Sunday night, we gather, and I mean, it's Michael Uslan and Leonard Maltin and his family, and porn stars, professional wrestlers, the cast of Ender's Game, the cast of Young Justice, Kari Payton, Will Friedle, Matthew Gray Gubler, you name it. They end up knowing I'm there and coming. Lots of media shows up, and we have these great gatherings. Sometimes there's like 20 of us in there, and we just take over and have fun. And it's really fun. Yeah. Especially when Alice Maltin is there, Leonard's wife, because she's uncorked. There's no containing her. She's a hurricane waiting to happen, and she's fantastic. So, yeah, we have a lot of good fun. It's fun. Molly Quinn, you name it, they all come down, and we have a great time. And ice cream. And I love ice cream. There's the other part of it that's the heart of it.
Did you have ice cream last year during virtual Comic-Con? Like,
yeah, you're gonna laugh at me, but yes.
No, I'm not.
I did, and I even went out of my way to get Ghirardelli ice cream just so I could complete the package there.
I love it.
So yeah,
can't break the tradition.
No, I'm an ice cream connoisseur. There's nowhere in the nation I don't know where the great ice cream is. Your Brahma stuff is it Brahma? What's the stuff? Brahms.
You were very close.
It's overrated. Sorry.
I agree. That's fine.
That's an Oklahoma City delicacy for those of you out there.
That's hysterical that you know that.
Oh, I know ice cream everywhere. So.
Well, I think that's so fun that you've turned that into your own thing. And I mean, anybody who knows you knows that is where you are to be found. Yeah.
It's the easiest path to find me. I'm telling you, I get together every year at Comic-Con. I get together with the organizers of New York Comic-Con, and we have ice cream one night just to start discussing what's coming next. You want to know if there was downtime? There's no downtime.
Well, to get us back to talking about conventions, I mean, if anybody doesn't know you, during Comic-Con, you're one of the busiest people at Comic-Con. We had Mark Evanier on last month, and he's the other busiest person at Comic-Con, but you two are both just everywhere all the time. So by comparison to that, did you feel like virtual conventions were easier, harder? How have you found these virtual conventions in comparison?
They're harder in some aspects. I mean, I always joke around that once the bulk of what's hard at a convention is everything you do leading up to it. Because we usually start working on it. We start working on San Diego in November. And there is that much to do. And the last 2 weeks of before Comic-Con for me is insanity, just buttoning every button to make sure everything is in place so that when we get there, I always joke around, the train's left the station. Once I pull out of Burbank and head for San Diego on Monday afternoon, I just said, train's left the station. We'll deal with it as it flies. But otherwise, there's so much prep that goes into it. And then it's just a logistical thing. It's really a math problem most of the time. How do we get from one place to another in time to do everything we need to? And one of the frustrating things of not having cons is we really build a lot of our appearance around our media and all of the interviews we do. And again, we have you were joking around about Mark and I. Mark and I always joke around about who's got more panels. And Mark usually has more panels, but the difference is his are on a smaller scale, and they're comics oriented or they're cartoon oriented or they're definitely animation, but he's not usually in Hall H or Ballroom 20. And or the quads, and that's where I've got my usually 12 to 14 panels of that, and I moderate at least half of them. And moderating is the easy part because if you haven't figured it out, I talk a lot. But they and that's the fun part too, because you're on stage with a bunch of your friends, and that's I'll get into that in 1 second. But bottom line, you don't have such automatic access and the time to give to your media, and then it's the activation, it's the fan interaction, I know fans get disappointed when we do these virtual panels, but when they're pre-recorded, so they can't ask their questions, and we do most of the time enjoy their questions. There's always one we don't enjoy, but we live with that one, and hope that nothing goes wrong. So yeah, it's a good. I can't even remember what the question was, but yeah, it's been. I don't want to say more difficult. It's just harder in a different way, and I don't feel like we're accomplishing as much as we would if we were in person. We're not satisfying every bone in everyone's body. I mean, DC Fandom was cool, and the virtual cons are cool because there's people in Brazil that get to take part in ComicCon and experience those kinds of things. There's people in other lands, there are other worlds, but maybe there are people in other worlds. Who knows who's monitoring our signal? But it's the personal interaction and the in-person thing is what makes the cons truly special. And you gotta give it to ComicCon for what they've done over the last year and a half, 2 years. I mean, they've had no money coming in. They're producing these things for free. They're bearing all the costs on their own, and they've kept people engaged, entertained, informed. They've made nice concessions that have been able to cater to the fans, to the vendors, to the creators. So that's a big plus. Those people work hard, and I know they had hours cut, they had days cut on their it was not an easy time for them, but they did not. I logged on for a Comic-Con did a bingo thing one night during the pandemic, and I was aghast. And they had all kinds of great trivia, and it was a fun night to play. And Friday night sitting back, and they were all cracking up that I logged on, but that made it that much more fun, and just getting that kind of fan interaction. So yeah, I definitely missed the fans. That's been a big part of it. And sorry, you want me to keep rambling? Is that okay?
Yeah, of course.
As much as I've gotten to know a lot of the fans over the years, and I appreciate that. And they come up and they treat you nicely and respectfully, and they want to talk to you, and there's a give and take, and I really appreciate how much they love what we do. A couple of years ago, we went to C2E2 in Chicago, and I was sitting down at dinner. I needed a quiet moment. There was a couple next to me, and they were so excited that they had gotten Travis Willingham and Laura Bailey and Matt Mercer's autographs that day, and they'd gotten to meet them. And these people are my friends. I love them dearly, and to see people get to experience them in person and that they appreciate the work they do and they know who they are is so wonderful to me. And this was a couple who told me, I started quizzing them, and I said, where do you live? And they were like, we live 2.5 hours south of Chicago in a town that you could skid through if you were going 80 miles an hour. And you never know it if you didn't know where it was, but we live there, but we love our cartoons. We love our animation. And I was like, if you could meet somebody, who was it? And the woman said John DiMaggio, and the man said Tara Strong. And I was like, that's so adorable. I wanted to call Tara right then and go, I need you to talk to this guy. It's just so great. And especially when I started in this business in like 96, I wasn't allowed to really talk about who was doing the voices of the characters at Disney. And it was very frustrating, and I wanted them to get the acclaim they deserve. And if you know the voice acting community, it's one of the most special groups you could ever hope to be part of. So I truly treasure that. And the other part that's been difficult. One of the challenges has been, I'm not an actor. I have no acting bones in my body. I'm not a performer. I'm a publicist. I'm a writer. I'm a photographer. I'm a yacker. But I don't. I don't. I used to. I used to get nervous talking to my daughter's third grade class on career day. I got
That's
30
so
third
cute.
graders in front of me, and that would shake me up. And I started moderating totally by accident. We literally, I don't think I've ever told the story here, but about an hour and a half before we were going to go on for a big panel, I got a call and told I could not use the moderator we had, and and I scripted the panels anyway, so I knew what to say and what to do. But suddenly I had to stand in front of 4,250 people, and it was an out-of-body experience. And truthfully, the fans buoyed me, and I fed off their energy, and I noticed that. And it took a year or two for me to get comfortable, and now I love being on stage. I love doing that, and it's really weird because when I step on stage at ComicCon, I get into ballroom 20, and that crowd roars, and I can feel them, and I can hear them, and I can see the first couple of rows, and it really energizes me and gets me to focus. And I know, because I come from them. I am a fan at heart. That's where I start, and I know my questions would be what they would ask, and I try and get that out of the way so we can get to their other questions later, and I can pin that down, because there's 4,000 fans that have at least 10 of the same questions we want to ask. So,
Yeah.
But doing a virtual panel, you come on and you're used to going, Bruce Timm, and you've got crowd cheering, and instead I'm like the guy going like this on the Zoom, and it looks ridiculous. But it's weird not having that kind of. I now understand what a TV actor goes through, acting without an audience and getting that kind of reaction. So it's I really miss the fans in that way. They're great. It's just fun. So.
Well, hopefully we will be having
Woo-hoo!
real conventions soon. And James, I think you have a question.
Well, speaking of hopefully having real conventions soon, do you think that the industry, both from the convention side and from the talent side, is going to be ready for when they come again? Or are there going to be do you think there might be some hiccups, or do you think people are just going to want to do it so bad they're going to come right back and get stuff done? Or, I mean, what do you think is going to happen, especially with things like we may be getting the Comic-Con special edition in November, right. And then next year we're obviously going to have Comic-Con next year, but
I think it's like that old cooking your waffles, the first batch you waste. I don't think we're going to waste a con, but I think most people will go into it like I'm pretty easygoing guy, and I don't fear much, and so, but I am cautious in terms of what we're going through, and knowing there's this Delta variant, and who's going to get sick. And I'm fully vaccinated. I'm not really worried. But on the other hand, I go to Dodger Stadium last Thursday night for a game, and I got to admit, when I got out of the car and started walking toward the stadium, I was looking around to see who was wearing masks. I was feeling suddenly, oh crap, I'm going into an environment with 50,000 people. And what's that going to be like? And who's going to be masked and who isn't? And who's vaccinated? I don't know who's vaccinated. I'm vaccinated, but will that help? Can I still get sick? So I think there's going to be a lot of. I know New York. They had originally said they were widening their aisles and trying to go with a smaller capacity. I don't know if they're sticking with that or not, but I think that'll be a very personal thing for everybody. I think the San Diego con in Thanksgiving time will be an interesting twist to see how many people turn out. I mean, it would not surprise me if they got 40,000, 50,000 without blinking. I mean, there's people that line up at my local Target at 9 o'clock on Thanksgiving night to buy a $2 toaster. I can't imagine they won't be lined up around the block to try and go meet, Dan Jurgens or something. So, well,
the demand at this point is so pent up. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a definite. I just think there'll be a lot of nervousness. People will be timid in some ways to see how that goes. And I think we'll come around. I mean, unless there's a second wave that starts taking people out, I really think, by WonderCon next year and Comic-Con, we'll be full blown and excited to be. I mean, I know if you cut me loose today, I have Shannon Wheeler will tell you that I have bought way too much Coffee Man art over the pandemic on Etsy. Maybe he wouldn't say too much, but he will say I buy more than anybody else. And I haven't gotten my fill of Mr. Toast and the Tick booth. Those are my favorites, and I've saved some money in that aspect, but I miss that. So yeah, I think people will come out, and I think it'll be good.
What do you think from the talent side? I mean, do you think we'll see massive changes moving forward? Like, I mean, do we think like autograph signings the way they've been in the past will be a thing of the past?
I would have, if you had asked me 2 weeks ago, I would have said it might be more difficult to start lining up talent. But they just had a con in Albuquerque this last weekend, I want to say. And there was some really good talent there that went and signed autographs and took photos and did the whole thing, and they didn't seem to miss a beat. And I talked to a couple of folks that were there, and they loved it and had a good time and said the fans were terrific and it was a great turnout. So one of the voice actors told me it was one of his best, if not his best, financially. For everybody that was turning out. If you look at like even Revolution Con down in Ontario that's going to happen later this year, that's a small show. You can get through in a day easily. It's a good show. There's some good people that normally go, Phil Lamar and Stu Whitwer, guys like that. And the floor has some fun stuff on there. You can catch up a lot of your favorites, especially Artist Alley types. But they're already signing up the likes of I think it's George Newbern and Susan Eisenberg. So you got a couple of meaty pieces from the Justice League, and it looks like they're lining up for a pretty good show for that. So I'm no longer really worried about if the talent will back off. I mean, maybe we won't get the. You know what? I'm pretty sure we're going to get a lot of the people back. I think they're anxious too. Even the biggest stars will tell you. Jensen Ackles once told me, when I was telling him we were going to bring him to Comic-Con, he said, "Do I get a con?" I was like, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, for me, Comic-Con is fly in from Vancouver, get in the limo, it takes me to the loading dock, I go up a service elevator, I come in the back door of a convention room, I walk out on stage, I wave, I do an hour, I do the opposite thing, and I'm done. I never get to see the floor, I never get to..." And Anthony Stewart Head, Tony Head, one of my all-time favorites. We had to run him and the Merlin crew in and out one year, their first year, and Tony was pissed. And he kept telling me, "You owe me 2 hours on the floor." I was like, "Okay." And he reminded me of it all year. And then through a series of very funny things, we ended up doing it the following year. And he's like a kid in a candy store. He was thrilled to meet Bill Plimpton. It was a gas. So and all he did, this is a celebrity walking the floor, all he did was put on a pair of glasses. And I was like, "Yeah, Clark Kent, that ain't gonna fly." He's like, No, it'll be fine. If we don't stop and people walk with us, it'll be fine. It actually was. So there are a lot of you talk to some of these celebrities that just, some of them are excited to go just because it gives them more street cred for a relative. So they can say out loud, "Hey, nephew Johnny, I'm going to be at Comic-Con. Would you like to go?" Kevin Conroy, I get his nephew a pass every year. So it's fun.
That's awesome. Well, that gives me hope. That's great to hear. I'm also of the opinion that I think it will be. I mean, I don't think if we actually had San Diego Comic-Con this July, like it would be full blown out. But I think by next year, like things will be theoretically pretty back to normal.
I agree. I really do. And I look forward to that. You know what? I miss the fans, but I also miss getting together for drinks with Brian Azzarello and Rucka and Bruce, Tim, and there's things that we all do every year that we enjoy there, and it's a good time. I miss it.
We all do.
Gary, earlier you mentioned moderating, and I know you've moderated numerous panels. Do you have a memorable panel that you always look back on fondly?
Well, the one that there's a couple. The one that I finally broke my nervousness was we did we did a DC Universe movie, and then we followed that with a series of trailers, and then we did a screening of and panel after for Trick or Treat, which was a fine little film. And we actually got Harry Knowles was going to moderate it, and he was in a wheelchair. And I had moderated the panel earlier and was feeling pretty good about it. And then I had to keep going out on the stage and setting up each one of these 6 or 7 trailers we did. And then I had the guys move the podium because that way Harry didn't have a podium in front of him. He could be saddled up to the table. But I totally forgot about that. What nobody who hasn't been on stage realizes is when those lights come on, you can't see anything, maybe the first 2 rows. And as I came out, the lights came up, and I forgot that the podium had been moved. And I went right to the edge of the stage and stepped half off and did a Buster Keaton pull myself back. And the crowd roared, and our executives laughed their butts off, and I did my thing. And it was in that moment when I realized I could have fallen 10 feet and broken my neck in front of 4,000 people, that I could do this, and it was okay. Really, there's one that was filled with comedy and some of it inappropriate. But my absolute favorite panel, I think, was the year Adam West died. ComicCon called me about a month before ComicCon and said, would you, Adam was a friend, and I loved him dearly, and they said, would you organize a tribute panel to Adam? And I said, yeah, sure. Although, hang on. And I was in New Jersey at a friend's home, and I said, let me call you right back. And I called Kevin Smith, and I called Ralph Garman. And I said, would you guys do this panel with me? And they both said yes. And I called ComicCon back and said, okay, we'll do it. And we got those 2. We had James Tucker. We had Lee Merriweather. And I feel like we had one more, and I'm blanking on it. And I apologize to whoever I'm forgetting. But it was a panel where I wasn't promoting anything. I wasn't trying to have any sales mentions. It was truly just a group of friends remembering a friend. And we tried to keep it light and fun. And I did show a couple of sound bites from Adam at the end that nobody had ever seen, that I'd done an EPK interview with him. And we played those, and that got people misty a little. But we all had fun talking about Adam. And we did it in one of the 1,000-seat rooms, and we had to turn away 2,000 people. Wow. We could have done it that much bigger, and it was like 7 o'clock on Thursday night or something, but it was a packed house, and it was the highlights were really Ralph Garman telling a story the first time he met Adam, and even doing his impression of Adam, which is wonderful, spot on, and Lee Merriweather told about the first time she met Adam, and I get goosebumps. She talked about how the first time she met Adam was when they went to film her first scene in the Batman 66 movie, and the first time she meets him, she has to dance with him, and she was nervous as all get out, and he took her in her arms, and before they started filming, he leaned into her, and I can't remember if he said, you're just, but she said, you are beautiful, and we're going to be fine. And she completely racks in. But when she tells it, it's her looking up into his face and seeing this gorgeous man with all this confidence, and taking her in her arms and guiding her through. It's the proverbial, you could hear a pin drop in the room. All of us were just, we could have lived with that experience the whole time. And it was just such a phenomenal panel, and everybody reacted so well, and the crowd was fun. It was funny because Ralph and Kevin walked into the green room, and both of them said the same thing. Hey, we have 3 moderators. Which one of us is actually moderating? And I said, I am. And they went, oh, thank God, we can just talk. This is great. So it was, that was a really fun and touching panel that I loved. Yeah, I'll give you one other quickie. The one that was inappropriate, but I won't get into the inappropriate part. Sometimes you get caught by surprise while you're doing something. You see something and it distracts you. I had been moderating for about 4 years when I finally realized there was a spotlight on the sign language interpreters. And I'd never watched that before. I'd never even noticed them down there. And they were positioned where I could see them with the spotlight. And suddenly I found myself talking a little slower to see if I could tell which words they were doing. And you're in front of 4,250 people. You've got Bryan Cranston and Katie Sackhoff and Ben McKenzie and Bruce Timm. You got all these people in this panel. And suddenly I totally forgot where I was. It was just, oh, she is saying my words with her hands. And I ended up turning it around and going, putting the spotlight on them and getting them applause. And Bryan Cranston brought them up and, gave them applause too. So it was fun. But yeah, the moron, every once in a while you forget who you are and where you're at.
And one last question on moderating. If, when conventions return, there's going to be, a wave of people who might be interested in moderating for the first time. Do you have any tips or suggestions on, for a beginner moderator?
Yes. Have the person that's supposed to moderate get fired just before you're going to go on, and then you get the job. No.
Great advice.
Okay, here's the things that I do that I'm told a lot of other moderators don't. Number 1, you have to remember, nobody came to see the moderator. Nobody. I mean, if my wife wouldn't come to see the moderator, okay? That's just the bottom line. They're here to see Pat Bomer and Brian Azzarello and whoever. It's the talent that's on the stage. You are a traffic cop. Number 2, you're a storyteller. Your job in scripting that panel, and you should script the panel. I don't mean down to the letter where you're going to get them to answer, but you should have a pretty good idea of what their answer will be. And if you can talk to them all beforehand, you have that advantage. Now, I have a big advantage on most moderators in that when we start a movie, I have the script from the moment it's written. I sit down and do an EPK interview, a behind-the-scenes interview with almost all of the talent. I'm there through production and everything that's going on. So I have a lot of that inside information. So I pretty well know, I'm like that lawyer that wants to know what the answers are beforehand. So I know I can guide the story and make it swim. It'll be constant and flowing rather than kind of disjointed and throwing questions all over the place. And so those are important tasks of that point. And then one of the other things I always do is I ask the talent on stage not to turn an answer to me, but to answer to the audience, to keep them included at all times. You never want to exclude them. You don't want it to you can have a conversation on stage, but try like turning only part way. Don't turn all the way. And then you're off microphone anyway. But you got to keep them on microphone, and you want them to, I always tell them, act like the question came from the audience, not from the podium. Because that's really where the questions are coming from. Most of the questions I ask are questions that either I think the fans would want to hear the answer to, or that it's an inside story that I know that I want them to tell so that they will bring that out. I mean, something as simple as a couple of years ago, Andrea Romano was not coming to New York ComicCon with us. And the person that discovered really Kevin Conroy for her had just passed away, and Andrea was telling me that tale. So I made sure Kevin Conroy talked about that on stage. But if I didn't know all that, it wouldn't have been there, and Kevin wouldn't have known to be prompted for it. So there's a lot of things you can get out of Kevin that you don't have to prompt very hard. You can always get him to sing, and there's stories I know he will tell, and all I have to do is a 2-word prompt. But he that was like a really poignant one that I thought was important, and it was a great story. It was a phenomenal story. So that was a good one, though. Yeah. So having inside information and having a clue about what you're talking about and the people you're talking with is important, and remembering that you're not there. Don't contribute. You don't have to tell stories unless they're really vital to it. So, yeah.
Well, that is all wonderful advice. And speaking of panels, is there anything you can tease about this year's panels? I mean, I feel like anyone who listened to the first part of this podcast can probably make some good educated guesses.
If you listen to I'll tell you this. If you listen to the first part of this podcast, you will have a good idea of a couple of panels we're going to be bringing. They will be spotlight, they will be fun, and they will continue traditions that we have done at ComicCon for many, many years. And I can tell you that in addition to being able to see the Mortal Kombat Legends Battle of the Realms trailer tomorrow morning on IGN, that's Thursday, July 1st, you might want to watch all your favorite websites tomorrow, because we will announce our 2 panels and the dates and times of them. And I know sometime in the very near future, Comic-Con will announce the full schedule, but you'll get our panels tomorrow.
Yeah, I think we're getting several tomorrow. I've gotten a couple emails.
I wouldn't doubt it. Yeah. That's when embargoes start breaking and things can flow. So, yeah, I wish I could, but I am not really allowed to at the moment.
Yeah.
Another 14 hours, and
Yes.
that'll start rolling out.
Not
Watch
long away now.
that Super PR guy. There'll be something on his Twitter feed.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Gary, for joining us as always. We really do appreciate you coming. And I hope you have Ghirardelli's again here in about
soon.
3 weeks. Yeah.
Very soon. Yeah. And thank you guys for having me. I do enjoy this. It's always fun, and you guys do a fine job. And I you don't know it, but sometimes I'm watching.
We don't like to know that people are watching.
It's true. I prefer to think like no one ever watches.
Okay, wait, so there's no outside questions. Nobody's actually watching this. They heard it was me and they didn't watch. Okay, there's nobody who wanted to know anything.
Wait, did we have a question? We did.
Did we?
Are you involved with Star Trek Lower Decks at all?
No, but I watch. Isn't it great?
Yeah. So, no, we don't have a question.
I didn't think we did.
There are some. I wish I was. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
I am. Wait, do we have a couple minutes or no?
Sure.
Yeah, we've got time.
So you all know about my Warner Brothers connections, but you'll start hearing a lot more about Lexinotis. If you remember Jay Oliva, who is a fantastic animation director, storyboarded most of the live-action DC movies, was our director on, I think, 10 different DC Universe animated movies. Jay has gone over and started his own animation studio, and right now we already have one series that premiered 2 weeks ago on Netflix. It's called Tresse. It is a Trese. It's an really amazing anime series. It's only 6 episodes so far, and it's imagine if Constantine was a, say, 24 or 25-year-old girl in the Philippines. And if anyone watching this is Filipino, you know of the intense supernatural, occult superstitions that that entire culture has embedded in it. And their folklore is fantastic. And she is basically Constantine. And it's based on a fantastic comic book graphic novel series from Budget Tan and Kajo, and it's really good. So, and that's just the first of the Lexinotis series that are coming out. There's many more to come. It's a great little studio that is going to explode, and I think people will really enjoy what they see. So expect a lot of Lexinotis going forward.
Well, that sounds really fun.
Yeah, it's great. So these are good things.
Awesome.
No other questions. We're good. Okay. Nobody's watching. Nobody knows what.
People are watching. People are watching, and I mean, they've all said you've had like great stories.
Well, that's good.
Because you do.
No questions. It's okay. I'll just go get some ice cream.
Yeah, I mean.
Yes, go get ice cream for us. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Sure, I love it.
All right. Well, yes, as you said,
Soon-ish.
yeah. So keep an eye on Super PR Guy at Twitter, and see what all you have going on at ComicCon at Home tomorrow.
Gonna be busy tomorrow. That's for sure. So yeah. All right.
Awesome. Well,
Great.
thank you so much, Gary.
Thanks, everybody. We'll
Talk
see
to
you
you later.
soon. Wait, there we go.
Thanks, Gary.
It shows up now. Bye.
All right. So let's get into the news.
Okay, I can leave.
You can leave. We still have fun stuff to talk about.
All right. Go and have fun. Thanks, everybody. I'll talk to you later. If you need anything, let me know.
Thanks, Gary.
Bye.
All right, so he's always fun. Let's talk about the news, and I'm going to do this out of order. I hope that's okay. So the first thing that happened was a couple weeks ago, we mentioned that ComicCon implemented a new child badge policy. And basically, like, if your child, I'm going to say this wrong, basically, if your child turned, I think, 13 between July 31st, 2020 through July 31st, 2021, they fall into this weird category where, like, previously they would have had a free child badge, but all of a sudden they're saying, like, well, that 1 year is no longer qualified for a free child badge, but junior badges sold a long time ago, so like they can't buy a junior badge, and it's kind of like those kids would just be screwed. I would like to hope that ComicCon will eventually announce, like, hey, if your child falls into this category, like, we will have a fix. However, in the meantime, you can contact ComicCon through your member ID if your child falls into that category. And I think odds are decent that ComicCon will fix it for you now. Hint, hint. And if not, remember that when you go to get a child badge, children don't have IDs. So no one can prove what age your child is. Yeah.
Shh.
Well, that's what I have to say about that. Yeah, so that was the oldest news. We've had a whole bunch of other things, though. Do we want to talk about FunCon?
We'll just mention it real quick. Funko announced FunCon for August 4th through 6th, which is going to be partially virtual, partially at their Hollywood location. There'll be exclusives and such. It's basically, we're assuming the exclusives that they would have probably taken to Comic-Con or had some kind of thing happening at Comic-Con, but they decided to do it on their own and separate from Comic-Con. So, but we figured we'd mention it since it's only just a couple of weeks after Comic-Con at Home.
Yeah, I mean, it's only like a week and a half after Comic-Con. And Fun Days has always been a San Diego Comic-Con thing. This year, Fun Days will be virtual only. That's not actually part of the physical stuff. The only thing that's actually physical is basically if you want to go and buy your exclusives in person rather than chasing them down across the net, you can sign up on, I think it's tomorrow. I think it's July 1st. Yeah, July 1st at 10 a.m. Pacific time. You can go to a link and first come, first serve. You can pre-register. to be able to shop at their LA store. So if that interests you, you can do that. If not, everything should still be spread across the net as usual with their exclusives. Like I said, Fun Days will be virtual, and that will be on Friday, August 6th. And they'll be doing like virtual contests. I would hope that they'll be making you chug cans of corn in your own home instead of in that ballroom.
Someone really make you chug cans of corn in your own home?
I mean, I'm not certain like how this is gonna work. I would guess that like you'll be on video, but who knows? You can also buy a box of fun, which normally that includes the exclusive Funkos. TBD on if it does this year, but if that is of interest to you, I would pay attention to at least that part. So
yeah, it'll basically just be essentially what happens every year, just virtual for the most part.
Yeah.
So any exclusives will be at, Box Lunch and Hot Topic and wherever else.
Yes. Okay. Hold on. So Will brought up a good point. I don't care about the sticker, but other people really, really care. The mutual exclusive that you can mostly buy online somewhere else, but you don't get the same sticker on the box. My guess is that's probably true. Usually the way that this works is the ones that you would buy like at the Funko booth, and in this case, probably the actual Funko store will have like a FunCon exclusive sticker, whereas the others will say like summer exclusive or something similar. But yeah, so if you care about the sticker, there you go.
So news about any Comic-Con offsites?
No, but
because there is no actual convention to have offsites.
No, there's not. I'm the one who's been jumping all over, so I'm going to go back to this. One thing that we want to mention is it is so important to shop small artists and vendors. I know that I beat this into the ground, but I'm going to keep beating it into the ground. And if you don't know where to start when it comes to that, you can, check out our Twitter feed, our Facebook feed, or our website. But we also have a SDCC Online, How to Virtually Shop the Floor, which is in the show notes and also on our website. It may even still be pinned at the top of our site, but it literally has links to web stores, social media for every single artist and vendor who would have been at Comic-Con last year. And when I say every single, I mean every single. This is not a small thing that we did. Yeah. All right. We want to talk about exclusives.
So I'll start first. I'll jump in with the Mondo exclusive that was announced earlier in the month, and they are offering a Halo Infinite screen print. It's really gorgeous. I'm looking at it now, and it looks great. And Mondo is obviously always known for great posters and other offerings, but they'll have this up for sale sometime during Comic-Con at Home weekend, so between July 23rd and 25th, and I would definitely recommend taking a look at that if you're a Halo fan.
Yeah, and if you are watching live or on YouTube and not listening to the audio, you can see the poster now. Thank you, James. If you are listening to audio, well, use your imagination.
Or just go to the site.
Just go to the site. Yes, but that looks very nice. The other big exclusive news that we got was Hallmark is bringing back their very fun ornaments. They've got some really fun ones this year. They've got a Star Wars Boba Fett one where he is playing guitar, which is pretty cool.
That's his gun.
His gun? Is it?
It's from the animated special way back in the...
I don't, yeah.
No, it totally looks like he's playing a guitar.
I absolutely thought that's what it was. I didn't look that close. There's a Star Trek Klingon Bird of Prey. There's a Ghostbusters Ecto 1 and RTV ornament. There is a Marvel Comics Spider-Ham Itty Bitty. And there is a really fun Super Mario Gold Mario, which I know Robert wanted. And I don't see why we can't just announce this now. Hallmark will also be sending us one of each of these to give away to you guys, hopefully in time for Comic-Con at Home.
Sweet.
But yeah. Yeah. So if you want to get your hands on those go on sale on 9 a.m. Pacific time on Friday, July 23rd. It should be first come, first serve. And if you, for some reason, don't get it then, you'll get a second shot during New York ComicCon in October.
And then the next one that we have is yesterday's. So yesterday's, last year they had that really hot Hall H pin. But this year they have a couple of different T-shirt offerings, which are all up for pre-sale at the moment. The first shirt is an Ultraman shirt where he's fighting over the convention center, which is pretty cool. And then we have two different Misfits T-shirts, and one of them is designed by Tom Whalen, which is pretty exciting.
Yep.
And then the last shirt, it's a vintage-inspired Ringer T-shirt with the San Diego Convention Center right there in the middle, which is a really cool shirt.
I love that shirt. I bought that thing so quick. Yeah, I don't know. Yesterday's, they've been going to the convention for several years, but I feel like I didn't pay that much attention to them until maybe like 2018, 2019. But the last couple years, they have brought it. They have done an amazing job. I'm super excited to see their pen designs for this year, which still have not yet been announced. I think I know what at least one of them is, and I'm very excited. I may be the only one who's excited about that one, but I'm very excited. And then finally, we have, at least for our slides, we have Patrick Ballesteros, who has, as always, some amazing things. He's got a couple of, how big are these? He's got some 8x10 or an 8x10 Star Wars print, which is really fun. And it actually goes along with one of his previous pieces. It's from Star Wars. It's called I Have a Bad Feeling About This. He's got some other 25-cent wonders, which will be available, including The Princess Bride, Star Wars, and then Avatar, The Last Airbender. And then, yes, he's also got he came up with a new collection, which he's calling Sweet Dreams, which is basically paying tribute to the beauty of napping. And he's got two really fun pieces in that, which is catching some Maya Z's instead of, which is basically just all your favorite Studio Ghibli characters. And then he's also got Cat Naps, which has a whole bunch of your favorite cat characters napping. Those are 8x8 prints and will be $18 each. And is that all that you have on your list?
Yeah, that's all the slides we made, yeah.
Yeah,
he has a few others that are on the site.
Yes, he does. A couple of them are just debuts. Most of them at this point are exclusives. He's got more still to come. We've seen his big one and it looks phenomenal. I'm very excited to share that with you guys here soon. But all of these will be available during Comic-Con at home. Exact schedule TBD.
And then we have some other exclusives, including the annual handmade stuff from DKE.
And they announced, in my opinion, what will probably wind up being the best one. Scott Seas is always one of my favorites. He does those great showdowns, and they revealed his one for that yesterday. It looks really cool.
It's very cool.
Yeah. Priscilla Wilson does these really fun vinyl Sunye. I'm not sure how we pronounce that, figures. She's got more of those, some pens, some other fun stuff. You can find all that on our site. Martin Sue has just a ton of stuff coming. I forget the date that it goes up, but he will actually be selling badges to his own little convention, and that gets you into his virtual Zooms, his virtual live draws. It gets you some fun stuff. You can find all of that information on our site. I don't think he's revealed his exclusive yet this year, but we will have that up soon. He is open for commissions. I do know that. And if you want commissions, we have a list of all the artists that we know who are taking commissions right now on our site. Now is a great time to go and order one. You get something fun. You get a memento of the convention. And again, you get to support a small artist. So I recommend doing that.
Yep. Because Carrie does it every year.
I do. Yes, I do. All
Have you ordered
right.
some already this year?
No, I actually haven't because I've been spending all my money on props. but I think I'm gonna get one from my buddy Henry Lau. So I need to email him what I want.
Cool.
Yeah, he is on that list, and he does great work. So.
All right.
All right. I think, unless you guys have any questions, we can start wrapping this up. So first of all, I just want to mention that we have Patreon, if you didn't know that. And we do a monthly podcast on there just for those guys. It's much shorter. It's not this long. But they get to do fun, different stuff. We talk about some different stuff. And last night, if you joined us, we did a Zoom hangout with just those people. And that is always a fantastic time. It was a blast. We really enjoyed it. But if you would like to support us, we make no money whatsoever off the site that goes in our own pockets. It all goes back into the site. So if you would like to help us keep the lights on, or if you see value in what we do, we would always appreciate if you would toss, even like $1 a month helps. And that is on the sidebar of our site and should be in the show notes as well.
Cool deal. So with Comic-Con barely 3 weeks away, we will be back in just a couple of weeks with the final regular scheduled season of this shortened season of the podcast. We will have another special guest, and then we will be preparing for our special live event on Saturday of Comic-Con, which again will hopefully have more special guests.
TBD.
And so that's what's happening in the SDConCast world over the next few weeks.
Yes. You can also sign up for a newsletter. We're not really sitting them right now, but we will, like in the distant future where there are real, actual, normal conventions. Yeah.
And so thank you all for joining us and listening and or watching. Robert, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
At Legion of Sand on Twitter and Instagram. And Carrie, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter at Carrie Dixon. That's pretty much it. James, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
I am everywhere on the internet at Dan Regal, and you can also check out geekshotphoto.com for all the social media and photography links for my wife and I. And speaking of my wife, she is our producer of the show, and she's the one who edits it, gets it into your ears, and creates all the slides and all the little stuff that gets this done.
We are on iTunes. If you'd like to subscribe, the links are up on the blog, or you can search for SDConCast. If you like what you've heard so far, please review us. We're also on Stitcher Radio. The link is in the show notes.
And if you want to get a hold of us, you can send us an email at sdcomiccon.blog@gmail.com. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/sdconblog, or tweet us at sd_comic_con. Thank you all for listening, watching, and everybody go
shawarma.
Bye-bye.